Each year, manufacturers bring out 3 types of drivers: a low spinning model, a standard model, and then there are these, the super forgiving draw bias smashers. Oh, and stay tuned because I think I found the driver which I'm going to be recommending more than any other this year. It is an absolute beast. Now, this type of arrangement of a standard, a low spinning, and then a super forgiving draw bias driver, that's not always been the case. But manufacturers figured out that if they offered more options, they could fit a greater number of golfers into their products. In this video, I've selected 3 models to show you: the Callaway Paradigm X, the Ping G430 SFT, and the Cobra Aerojet Max. Now, before you get down into those comments and start smashing the keyboard about the drivers that I've not selected for this video, I've got very specific reasons for choosing these 3, and I will explain that as we go. So each of these drivers has something in common. They are the maximum allowed head size at 460cc to increase forgiveness. They are all designed with mishits in mind, and they all have weighting and head shapes designed to help the golfers who slice the ball. You can see here how there are weights in the head positioned towards the heel, or movable weights which increase the amount of draw bias. And all manufacturers are trying to do with these designs is get the club face more closed at impact than it otherwise would be to help eliminate the slice. These drivers also have more offset than other big sticks. Offset is the amount the club toe sits in front of the heel at address, again helping to stop slices. Now, if this all sounds like a dream, then strap yourselves in because all these drivers have something to offer. First up, we have the Cobra Aerojet Max. Now, during testing of the standard Aerojet and the Aerojet LS, I didn't really like the drivers. I just found them pretty hard to hit. Now, the Max, however, just seems to bring everything together. So I knew that the Aerojet series had some really good potential for distance, but on off-center strikes, I just couldn't see that much forgiveness. The Aerojet, however, still has that feeling of being a cannon whilst offering that forgiveness. So some reviewers and some of you guys have been hating on the crown and the colour scheme, but to be honest, it is growing on me. These weights in the heel and the back of the club are also interchangeable to allow more forgiveness or more draw bias depending on where you put the weights. I'm starting to understand this driver a little bit more and get what it does, and I like what I'm seeing. Looks behind the ball, it's got a big footprint. It does inspire confidence, and as I mentioned before, compared to the other Aerojet models I've tested this year, that is a nice welcome relief. Feel-wise, it's also a lot less harsh. So with the standard Aerojet and the LS, when I'm striking it from the heel and the toe, it just felt so demanding. It didn't feel like it wanted to fly straight. But with the Max version, it feels out the heel, out the toe, and off center just so much more rewarding. So I've hit those 3 strikes, so top, center, out the toe, and then towards the heel. And they all found their way back to target. And that is what these drivers are about. And I'd also say about this driver is the offset isn't that extreme. You can see that there's quite a lot of loft behind the ball. It looks inviting, it looks easy to hit, but it doesn't feel like you'll automatically smash the ball to the left-hand side. This looks a little bit more playable, a little bit more workable, almost like a draw bias light is the best way of describing it. Now the center, it's good, very good. And second up, we have the Ping G430 SFT. So I like the early testing we've done with the G430 range. The standard model feels great and is very forgiving. The SFT just seems to add like an extra 15% to everything. So Ping haven't reinvented the wheel. With the SFT, it just feels very easy to square up at the point of impact. And if you're struggling with a slice, well, that is absolutely fantastic. The sound and feel of this driver are better than last year's Ping driver to be released, the G425, which was an extremely popular club with golfers. But honestly, I think the SFT version of the G430 is probably my favorite Ping driver release for a long time. So it's got a very similar design to the G430 drivers this year. It's got those turbulators on top for airflow. It's got these nubbins which frame the ball okay. I'm not a huge fan of how it looks, to be honest, but you know, looks are subjective. It's on the bottom where things really start to get interesting for me and really show what this driver is all about. You've got a movable weight, this tungsten weight at the back, and it has two settings. It has draw and it has draw plus. You know, this is a driver that you are going to use if you really want to correct that shot which goes off to the right hand side if you are a right-hander, or you do want to see more of a right to left ball flight, and it works. That is the key really for me of any driver. Does it work? And this one, yes, it definitely does. So it feels slightly lazy not to pick that many holes in a driver's feel and performance, but to be honest, apart from the way that it looks, I think Ping have just absolutely smashed it out of the ballpark with this driver.
This ball is crushed.
Finally, we have the Callaway Paradigm X. I think as a whole, the Paradigm drivers this year might just be the most complete package. There are some issues for golfers. The price, for example, of the Callaway Paradigm drivers is very high. The X employs much of the same technology the other Paradigm drivers have, with a huge amount of carbon being used. This driver looks absolutely massive behind the ball, but it's not ugly, it's confidence inspiring. I actually think it looks the best out of all the drivers in this test, but also it just feels like butter, like falling onto a pillow after a long day, like getting hugged by a huge fluffy dog, like floating on. Yeah, it's just like proper good. The reason for me this driver feels so good is that from across the face, where, yeah, let's be honest, most of us hit it, the ball speed and the solidity, it's just great. From the heel, from the toe, from the center, it's brilliant. The Cobra, it feels strong. The Ping, it feels easy. The Callaways, both of those rolled into one. Now, while some players with faster swing speeds might not get the most out of this driver, for, well, most of the golfing population, it is absolutely bang on the money. Oh, it just feels unreal. It's so good. So which of these drivers would I recommend the most? That question is going to be unlocked when we look at the data. So I was hitting all these drivers at 10.5 degrees, but my swing speed was at 100 miles an hour. And that is around the swing speed that a lot of people who want these drivers are going to be swinging. Now, the first thing I want to look at are the carries and the total distances. So you can see here that the Cobra has won both those categories, carrying it 250 yards and then a total of 272. The Callaway came in second, carrying it 248.6 yards and running out to 269.7 to be precise. Now, the Ping was lagging behind in last place at pretty much 243 yards carry and 260.9 yards total. However, this does not tell the whole story because, as mentioned, these drives are at 10.5 degrees. These aren't tuned in for my swing. That was just the baseline of figures that I wanted to take. Now, my backspin with the Ping, so that's the amount of revolutions that the ball is spinning back towards you as you hit, was the highest. Now, that will generally cause that driver to go less distance. Also, I was delivering a greater amount of loft to impact with the Ping. So the ball was flying higher, was spinning more. Those two things usually go hand in hand. But here is the kicker. So these drivers, yes, we want ultimate forgiveness, but we also want that ball, if you are struggling with a shot that goes off to the right-hand side for a right-hander, to go further left. Let's have a little bit of a look at the offline dispersion with these drivers, and you can see that with the Ping, I was consistently hitting the ball off to the left-hand side. My path into the ball, so the direction of travel that my club was taking, was pretty neutral, and I was trying that to see how much that face was going to be close to where it usually would be for my swing. Now, this does have to be taken with a pinch of salt, because if you are going to get these drivers and you want to be understanding if it's going to help you with your slice, the only way of really knowing this is to get fit and to really hone into these details. For me, I would say that the ping is the easiest to keep left as far as ball flight is concerned. And a last little bit of a look at my ball speeds. So my club speeds were pretty consistent, around 100 miles an hour, and the ball speeds with these three clubs were also very consistent, as you can see here. So as far as the driver that I'm going to recommend for you guys, we're looking for something which is super forgiving and which keeps the ball left. And for me, I would say that that is the ping. Out of all the drivers that I've been testing this year, I would say the Callaway is very easy to hit, and I would say overall a fantastic driver. But in this particular category, as far as ease of use and anti-slice, it has to be the Ping G430 LST. The extra settings that you have on the bottom of the club are great, but also the amount of offset, it just really does help keep that ball off to the left. So guys, thanks for watching, and if you want to check out some more driver reviews, check out these videos here.